Israel has declared a state of emergency as it expects retaliation from Iran after it launched dozens of military strikes on sites linked to Iran's nuclear program this morning. The US says it was not involved in Israel's attack on Iran. SABC News correspondent Trent joins us now from Tel Aviv in Israel for an update. Trent, talk to us about the state of emergency when you found out what's happening at the moment.
Well, the state of emergency was declared just after 3 a.m. local time as those airstrikes began. Now, the way people found out about it was everyone was woken up with a mobile phone alert notifying them that the state of emergency had been declared. They did also sound the sirens across major cities. Now, what that means in effect is that people throughout much of today are being told either to stay at home or to remain very close to bomb shelters in anticipation of any sort of retaliation that may come, and certainly the message from Tehran is that that retaliation is coming. We also are being told that the underground rail system here in Tel Aviv has opened its stations to act as public bomb shelters, as well as several hospitals have cleared out their underground parking facilities in order to be able to provide medical care underneath in case there's any sort of missile attack on the surface. So it's going to be a crucial few hours ahead, I think, as Israel anticipates what the reaction may be. We've just seen in the past 20 minutes or so, the Israeli military announced that Iran has fired 100 drones towards Israel. It is thought they will take about 5 or 6 hours to arrive. Those are those very slow drones that we see often in the war in Ukraine, actually, the Shahed drone as it's known. We're being told aircraft are trying to intercept them right now, but I think the big fear is less about the slow-moving drones and more about those fast-moving ballistic missiles. Iran has a pretty large arsenal of them, and you only have minutes' notice if those are fired.
Yeah. Trent, Iran also responding and saying, basically vowing severe punishment. So this is the response to it, and one would imagine that this is going to be the start of something massive. I mean, that's what the speculation is.
Look, it certainly feels that way. I mean, this is a pretty major red line, I think, that the Israelis have crossed from the Iranians' perspective. I mean, they've targeted the senior military leadership of the country, in some cases in their homes and apartments. They've targeted military bases, and they've also targeted nuclear enrichment facilities. It's worth noting that the UN nuclear watchdog says it is monitoring radiation levels at one of the sites that was hit. They don't believe there's any sort of elevated radiation concerns right now. But look, this was a major operation. 200 fighter jets took part in it. We're being told 5 separate waves of airstrikes at 100 different targets right across Iran. And so you would imagine right now they will be feeling the heat of all of this, and they'll be wanting to respond. What the response looks like, they are saying it's going to be very significant, which is why I think the Israelis have preemptively declared this state of emergency in order for their population to try and lay low today over what one Israeli military official has briefed to the media here as being a rough couple of hours ahead for Israel and the region.
What happens during a state of emergency? Perhaps, Trent, you can give us an understanding. Do people stay home, schools close, businesses, or do people go on with their daily lives but just sort of make sure they're near bomb shelters? Or how does a state of emergency actually work in Israel?
Well, look, I mean, there are several rules. I mean, large gatherings have now been banned and not allowed to go ahead under law. In fact, it was an interesting element of all of this that today the Tel Aviv Gay Pride was meant to be taking place. Around 60,000 people were going to attend that parade. That will likely not be going ahead now. We also know workplaces, non-essential workplaces will be closed. Schools are also closed, although it is the weekend here now on the Israeli calendar, being Shabbat on a Friday, so schools would not have been opened anyway. But people will likely stay home. They'll be less out on the street. They'll probably not travelling too far away. I was actually down at one of the supermarkets earlier this morning to get some batteries, and there were large queues of people stocking up on things like candles and bread and bottled water. Clearly they are anticipating that this is something that could last a little while if there are flurries back and forth now between Iran and Israel, of course, two of the region's most powerful military forces. If they do decide to effectively declare war on one another, then it could become quite serious. So, as I say, it's going to be a very interesting couple of hours ahead, but we do know that the US is at pains to stress that it was not involved in this, that they didn't take part in this. The question then becomes, will they help Israel with the Iranian response? They certainly have done so in the past. It is thought that if they don't step in this time and assist, then in many ways the Israelis may not be able to handle the response all on their own, and some of those missiles will likely evade the air defence systems and actually have an impact here. So a real kind of turning point, a pretty major moment, I think, for the broader Middle East.
Certainly is, and we also await to see what the US president has to say. I'm sure he will be making an announcement soon, and I'm sure not a happy man, because he had promised that he would negotiate peace, and it certainly does not look like this is what's happening. But Trent, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for updating us. And as you heard, so that's the developing news overnight. But the development on that story is that a state of emergency has been declared in Israel after those overnight attacks, or actually early morning attacks on Iran. So the nation really waiting with bated breath in that area as to what is going to develop.